Hello everyone, it's me, number 10, the anchor of hope. In the 19th century, there was an infamous shipwreck in New York Harbor. The steamship named the Arabia left New York City and was sailing to Alcantara, Brazil. But unfortunately, the ship hit a sandbar and wrecked. More than 150 people lost their lives. They were buried in a mass grave. And then years later, a house was built right over it. Today, the home is still standing at 266 83rd Street in Brooklyn, New York, back when the house was built in 1897. Nobody knew about the tragedy that occurred in the exact location where they were putting down the foundation. But nowadays, people are starting to find out, and some are even afraid to walk by the house. People say they can hear the moans and cries of the lost souls trapped underneath it. No 9, a house of horror. In the year 1891, two brothers named Borden and Andrew Davis decided to open up a funeral home. For them, business was great. They were always busy, which made them very happy. But what they didn't know was that their happiness was being fueled by evil. The brothers had no idea that their new funeral home was actually sitting on top of an ancient Native American burial ground. To make things worse, the building was also constructed atop a jail that had been abandoned for many years. The jail was known as the Potter's Field and was used in the late 1700s. It was originally meant for female prisoners. But the place became so overrun with criminals that both men and women were jammed inside. Needless to say, nobody emerged from the jail alive. As the years went by, the jail fell into disrepair and was eventually forgotten about until those two businessmen decided to build their funeral home right on top of it. According to local legends, the spirits of those who died in the jail never left. If you visit the site today, you might be able to see the ghost of a woman in an old-fashioned nightgown walking around the property. Number 8. Satan's home. Back in the 19th century, a wealthy man named Charles Astor sold his mansion. He lived at 65th Street and Park Avenue in New York City. The place had been in his family for generations. But he sold it because his daughter and son-in-law wanted to use the land for something else. His daughter and son-in-law were architects, and they planned to tear down the house and replace it with an office building. But before they could get started, a group of strangers showed up and stopped them. The people claimed that the land was theirs and belonged to a church. They said that the church had purchased the property so they could build a house of worship, except nobody could ever figure out why. The only thing that anybody knows is that the church was run by a man named Cyrus Teed, and that he believed that Satan was real. The construction of the church began in 1899 and was completed 3 years later. By 1902, the Church of the Intercessor was standing tall on 65th Street. Then in 1904, one of the architects, Harry M. Wardwell, committed suicide. 1 year later, the other architect, Harold Van Vleck, also took his own life. And the building itself burned to the ground. But the strangest part of the story was yet to come. When the fire was put out, the firemen found the body of Cyrus, who had also killed himself. He died in the same spot where his so-called church once stood, and now the whole place is considered cursed. Number 7. The Ghosts of the Holiday Inn. There is a Holiday Inn located in Aurora, Missouri. The hotel opened back in 1931 and was going strong for decades. Then in 1991, the inn had to close its doors. It wasn't until 1997 that the Holiday Inn finally reopened, although the locals had long since forgotten all about it, and the strange occurrences that happened within its walls had become nothing more than a rumor. After the inn had been abandoned for 6 years, the new owner named Joe returned it to its former glory. But not long after it opened again, guests and staff began to experience strange phenomena. At first, they thought it was just some tricks of the mind, the kind of thing that happens when a place has been closed for such a long time that the imagination runs wild. But then the hauntings got worse. People started hearing screams in the middle of the night, and then seeing shadowy figures roaming through the halls. Guests also reported feeling touched and even bitten by invisible forces while staying in certain rooms. Some believe the place may have once been a brothel, though nobody can confirm this. Maybe the ghosts are angry that their business was interrupted. No 6 Murder Mansion. A young couple purchased a house in Orange County, California. They had no idea that the home had a violent past. In fact, the entire area was once a Native American burial ground. Then in 1887, a man named John McKiver moved into the house with his wife and kids. He didn't know that the very ground his house stood on was tainted with death. This would soon become apparent. His daughter died when she was just 2 years old. His son died when he was only 6 years old. His wife passed away when she was 30. And as if this wasn't bad enough, John was also murdered in the house. To this day, the house stands at the corner of Marguerite and Cypress, and every year, strange things happen inside. Many believe the ghosts of the dead still live here. Sometimes these ghosts aren't shy. If you visit, you should keep an eye out for a little girl wearing a Victorian nightgown. She likes to play hide and seek with the living. No 5 haunted hotel. There is a haunted hotel in Colorado Springs called the Strater. It was built in 1892 and was the first brick building to be erected in town. Soon enough, it became a popular place to stay, especially among the rich and famous. But it wasn't all sunshine and roses. The hotel was allegedly built on top of an Indian burial ground, and things started getting creepy almost immediately. Strange sounds echoed through the halls. Doors were slammed open and shut by invisible hands. And then there were the apparitions. One of the most frequently seen ghosts is that of a young girl in a Victorian nightgown. She walks the hallways at night and has even been photographed a few times. Another apparition that has been spotted is that of a businessman dressed in 19th century clothes. It's rumored that he met his demise in room 237. Number 4. Lost Love. If you've ever taken a trip to Myrtle Beach in South Carolina, you probably stayed at one of the hotels on Ocean Boulevard. These places are full of bright lights and exciting entertainment. But underneath all that fun, there is a dark secret. Most people don't know this, but the main strip of Myrtle Beach was once a Native American burial ground. Then, to make matters worse, they filled the land with concrete and steel and turned it into a tourist trap. One of the biggest offenders is the Celebrity Tribute Theater. The building was constructed right on top of an old cemetery. That might explain why the employees and customers keep seeing the ghost of a young girl in a Victorian nightgown. No. 3. Dark history. It's easy to dismiss rumors about a haunted house as nonsense. After all, who really believes in ghosts? But there is a place in Texas called the Ghost Ranch, and it isn't just a name. The ranch really is haunted. It's not like there are ghosts hiding behind trees or spooking people in the night. Rather, the hauntings are subtle. Objects go missing and then turn up in odd places. Some even say the ghosts of the ranch only take objects as souvenirs and leave behind tokens of appreciation. There's even a cabin called the Ghost Cabin, which is rumored to be the most haunted place on the ranch. According to legend, a man named Joseph was murdered in the cabin by his 2 sons. This was done so his sons could steal his fortune. Number 2. Shadowy figure. A man named Jimmy Ryerson lived in a small town in South Dakota. He had no idea that the house he had purchased was built atop a Native American burial ground. He and his wife enjoyed the home for many years, but they kept seeing the shadow of a man walking across their front lawn. Even stranger, the shadow was only visible during the winter when the snow had piled up. One day, Jimmy's son noticed the shadow as well. He chased it outside, but when he looked around, he couldn't see anything. Years went by, and the strange shadow continued to appear. Number 1. Buried alive. Back in 1862, there was a mass grave dug in Minnesota. Hundreds of bodies were buried underneath it. It was the largest mass grave in U.S. history, containing the bodies of soldiers from the Battle of Fort Donelson. Years went by and people forgot all about the mass grave. Then, in the early 1900s, a shopping center was constructed in Nashville, Tennessee. But this was done on top of a Native American burial ground. As you can imagine, the construction workers uncovered many bones, some of which were hundreds of years old. Things were halted, and the archaeologists came in to do their work. But the shopping center was eventually finished, and today people regularly see ghosts wandering through it. Thanks for watching. What do you think is the scariest haunted house? Let me know in the comments below. See you next time. Bye.